They run 400 tests, come up with their expert diagnosis, toss people in the hospital for thousands of dollars a day. Then if they're not sick enough to die, they've got no money left to live.
His roles as Simba in Disney's The Lion King and Randy from Home Improvement won him widespread acclaim. However, Jonathan Taylor Thomas returned to Hollywood after leaving in 1998. Why? He kept quiet about his pain. His personal difficulties nearly ruined him, his panic episodes from fame, and the terrible headaches he had while filming. We now know the reason for America's beloved adolescent star's decision to vanish, 25 years later. Jonathan Taylor Weiss came into this world in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania on September 8, 1981. His name is Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Stephen Weiss and Claudine Gonzalez had no clue their kid would become a major adolescent idol in the 90s. He changed his name when he began performing. His middle name, Thomas, was taken from his brothers, but he retained his first and middle names. It was more than simply a stage name, it was an amalgam of his private and public personas, an identifier that served to both honor his family and set him apart in the competitive Hollywood industry. A lot of things changed throughout his formative years. He was 4 years old when his family uprooted and settled in Sacramento from Pennsylvania. They uprooted once again a few years down the road, this time settling in Los Angeles. He got closer and closer to the entertainment world with each shift. He may have been more adaptive as a result of his early childhood experiences bouncing about from place to place. Most children wouldn't even consider making such a choice at the tender age of 4, but he did. A vegetarian, he became. He wasn't trying to be trendy or imitate someone else. His belief in animal rights motivated him to do it. Time only served to solidify that conviction. Regardless of the demands from Hollywood, he remained devoted to making ethical decisions and refused to utilize items that were tested on animals. It is possible that his mother instilled in him an awareness of societal concerns. In her role with low-income persons, she frequently escorted him to company events. He had insight that most children his age lacked. Gratitude, making decisions that count, and responsibility were some of the lessons he picked up. There was more to his vegetarian lifestyle than meets the eye. The key was to conduct one's life in accordance with his principles. Characterized by his stand on animal rights, he stood out. Issues like ethical consumption were taboo for young celebrities in the 1990s. It wasn't only something that Thomas broached. It was his life. His admirers held him in high esteem for his decisions as much as his acting. There was more to him than that. He was a man with strong beliefs. A new chapter in his life began in 1991. The son's parents split up. His family uprooted to Los Angeles when he was 10 years old, following his mother and elder brother. Though challenging, the change brought him one step closer to exciting new possibilities. Being in Hollywood only served to further propel his already booming career. Thomas's support system was solid even though he was going through a divorce. His mother kept him grounded and oversaw his profession. Jeff Weiss, his uncle, was another pivotal person in his life. Jeff had a successful acting and playwriting career. In addition to being a relative, he served as a role model. More than merely memorizing lines, he taught Thomas appreciate acting for what it is. He instructed him on the art of storytelling, the technique that went into creating the on-screen performances that audiences enjoyed. Thomas was fortunate in a way that many young performers were not. He had an industry-connected relative. Someone who was well-versed in the industry might help him navigate it. Thomas may have acted more seriously than other children his age because of his uncle's influence. He brought authenticity to his roles, even in comedy. He was fully immersed in the role. He was adding a new dimension to it. Young Jonathan Taylor Thomas got his start. He began his career as a print commercial model in Sacramento, California, by the time he was 7 years old. He then got commercial work on television, where his charisma and self-assurance shone. He was more than a typical serial salesman. His unique qualities caught the eye of everyone around him. Back in 1988, he had one of his first major advertisements for Kellogg's Product 19, among others. Thora Birch was his Burger King ad co-star 2 years thereafter. Canon camcorders and Vivident gum were among his other advertising clients. With each commercial comes more screen time and experience. To have a better understanding of the business world. By the time it was 8 o'clock, he had laid the groundwork. After that, he landed his first major TV job. The Bradys, a 1990 spin-off of The Brady Bunch, featured him as Kevin Brady. It was an intriguing endeavor. Oftentimes, the middle kid would play the role of the comic only to get everyone's attention, returning beloved characters from the first series. However, I failed to grasp it. Cancellation came after only 6 episodes of the series. Even if it wasn't his big break, he was still making progress. He was known by his birth name, Jonathan Weiss, at the time. He gained valuable experience working with seasoned TV veterans such as Robert Reed and Florence Henderson. The concert may not have lasted long, but the experience was priceless. He got a taste of the television industry and what it was like to star in a series via it. Something far greater came out of that initial exposure. He got the part of Randy Taylor on Home Improvement in 1991 after an audition. He became one of the most famous young stars of the decade when the program became a huge smash and ran for 8 seasons. His likeness to Tim Allen helped him land the role, but it was his charisma and charm that won over the audience. Thomas was a regular cast member for 177 episodes of the sitcom that aired between 1991 and 1999. His character's complexity was a big reason why fans like him, not to mention his humor. Randy was more than your average child star. He doubted everything. He questioned his father's traditional beliefs. "Come on in, I say. I am introducing you all to my new employer. John Baker here. Excuse me, greetings. Call me Vanessa. Good day. Hi there, I am Mike Baxter. Hello there." Randy seemed to be well known. Both his intellect and his moral compass were razor sharp. Because of that, he became one of the show's most distinctive characters. He took his job seriously even when he was just 10 years old. Impressive and draining, he managed to balance school and filmmaking. He would finally quit acting as a result of all that pressure. Jonathan Taylor Thomas was more than simply an actor when he was at the height of his stardom. A phenomenon, he was. Month after month, he graced the covers of magazines such as Bop and Tiger Beat. He became one of the most popular adolescent idols of that era thanks to his blue eyes, unruly blonde hair, and the moniker JTT that he earned from his fans. It went beyond just appearances, though. Intelligence was his strong suit. A wise man, he was. He spoke in interviews about maintaining a realistic perspective and finding a constructive way to use his popularity. He wanted more than just admiration. He was trying to be as clear as possible. His work extended well beyond the realm of house renovation. He was the lead actor in several comedies aimed at families, including I'll Be Home for Christmas, Tom and Huck, and Man of the House. Even though these parts increased his fame, they weren't without their drawbacks. The continual scrutiny began to wear him down by the late 1990s. The appellation JTT was his least favorite. When interviewed, he felt like they were prying too much into his private life. There came a point when being a teen idol felt like too much pressure. It was challenging to juggle school and Hollywood. Keeping up with the class was just part of it. He started to feel the effects of the stress and long hours on his health. His migraines were so bad that he would occasionally tape full episodes while in excruciating pain. "I can't tell you the number of gigs I performed while suffering from a severe migraine," he said in an interview from 1994. He persisted. His demeanor remained solemn, though the going got tougher. His departure from Home Improvement was finalized in 1998. He had been working constantly for almost 10 years, although being just 17 years old. He desired an alternative. He just wanted to be a regular guy. Fans were taken aback, and several members of the cast were unhappy about his leaving. It was the correct choice for Thomas, though. He went on to say, "I would have put myself in an early grave if he had remained at the show and attempted to achieve what he is doing now academically." On the other hand, Jonathan Taylor in Disney's The Lion King, Thomas voiced little Simba at the tender age of 12. He has voiced a variety of characters, including a young Simba in The Lion King and Randy on Home Improvement for the past 6 seasons. His role in the upcoming film Wild America will be available to see beginning on July 2nd. Now, let's examine it. His career reached new heights in this role, while he was already famous for his portrayal of Randy Taylor on Home Improvement. The film won 2 Oscars and made about $1 billion, making it a huge success. It was more than a job for Thomas. It was an opportunity to give life to a cherished character from Disney's canon. For months, Disney scoured the voice actors for the perfect fit. They required somebody capable of capturing Simba's boundless enthusiasm, inquisitiveness, and carefree spirit. Thomas distinguished out among the dozens of young actors that auditioned. He had an air of effortless self-assurance that elevated Simba beyond the status of a mere cartoon figure. He was ideal because his voice possessed the ideal blend of naivete and charisma. It took over a year to record all of the lines. Disney was flexible in their scheduling to accommodate Thomas's home remodeling plan. Even the set of the show recorded him saying a few sentences. It was common for him to play alone while thinking about the reactions of the other actors. He would occasionally do their lines himself to make it seem more authentic. Because of this, he was able to respond realistically. His facial expressions and body language were also captured so that the animators could include parts of his character, Simba, into the film. Even Simba's most distinguishing features were influenced by his distinctive grin. The performance was amplified by Thomas's connection with Simba. Simba was bold, perceptive, and self-reliant, much like his home improvement persona. Because of his comfort level, he was able to blend in with any setting. Every emotion that Simba felt, excitement, anxiety, and sadness, came alive in his voice. Particularly at the second that Simba discovers Mufasa following the stampede. Despite the film's animation, Thomas added depth to the story that audiences will never forget. There was more to The Lion King than meets the eye. Its impact on popular culture was immense. There were millions of copies sold of the soundtrack. Its universal themes of responsibility and self-discovery resonated with viewers around. With Thomas's voice, the film continues to be one of Disney's most cherished creations, even after all these years. His portrayal of Simba was essential in humanizing the character and changing audiences' perceptions of him. Thomas continued his voice acting career after The Lion King. The Adventures of Pinocchio, a live-action/animated film that reimagined the timeless tale, premiered in 1996 and he portrayed the title role. The awe and resolve of a wooden doll with big hopes of growing up to be a boy were beautifully conveyed by his voice. His acting career began at a young age. He was quite gifted at giving life to his characters. In animation, he also had little parts. In the wildlife-studying family sitcom The Wild Thornberrys, he played Tyler Tucker. In an episode of The Simpsons, he voiced the character Luke Stetson. His charming voice made every character stand out, even in these brief parts. In subsequent appearances, he provided the voice for Prince Rajas in the science fiction tale told through the Mobius comic, and he portrayed Tangy, a teddy bear in need of a home, in the Christmas special titled The Tangerine Bear. He proved his versatility as a voice actor with each project that gave him the opportunity to portray a variety of characters. In the 90s, Jonathan Taylor Thomas was practically unheard of. He was more than simply the home improvement child. He played exciting, humorous, and adventurous roles in some of the most popular family films of the decade. He got to try new things in every position. But in every role he played, he managed to inject an air of lightheartedness. He played the role of Ben Archer, a young man who has a hard time accepting his mom's new partner, in the 1995 film Man of the House. Ben wasn't exactly making things easy for Chevy Chase's character, who portrayed the man attempting to win him over. At first, he devised a number of schemes and pranks to avoid him as much as possible. However, their dynamic shifted when they were compelled by an imminent threat to remain united. This was no light-hearted farce. It was an adventure tale with family strife and a lesson on embracing change. In the presence of Chevy Chase, renowned for his wit, Thomas held his own. He was bright, self-assured, and hilarious. Though critics were divided on the film as a whole, Thomas stole the show. His charismatic performance elevated every situation he was in. He played a very different character in Tom and Huck that same year. Tom Sawyer, the infamous mischief maker from the beloved novel by Mark Twain, was the protagonist this time around. He wasn't exactly playing the mischievous fool. As soon as he and Huck Finn became entangled in a murder case, the situation heated up. They had to keep their identities hidden as they evaded capture. The film maintained the lighthearted tone of the source material while providing thrilling action and suspense. Thomas was an excellent Tom. It was tempting to think he was the type of kid who could use his charisma and courage to get out of any jam. That is something that has taken up a lot of my attention recently. After finishing up with the play, I dove headfirst into school and prepared for my final exams. With all these final exams, how are you doing academically? I am delighted to report that my freshman year has come to a close. Going back next year is in my future. Once again, he shook things up in 1997 with the biopic Wild America. The youngest of three brothers, he portrayed Marshall Stuffer, who embarked on a cross-country adventure to shoot animals. It was a narrative about risk-taking and the pursuit of lofty goals. Real animals added an extra layer of excitement to every scene, since the film was set in forests, rivers, and mountains rather than city streets or small-town neighborhoods. This time, Thomas wasn't acting like your typical wisecracking child. Ambitious, resolute, and eager to show himself, he possessed a persona that was compelling. He successfully navigated the change from his previous responsibilities. In 1998, I'll Be Home for Christmas followed. A Christmas comedy with a unique twist, this one was. Thomas portrayed the selfish college student Jake Wilkinson. Jake was all set to make the most of his dad's classic Porsche when he gave it to him for Christmas. However, he was unable to return home since he became trapped in the desert while dressed as Santa Claus and had no means of transportation. Changing his mindset was the one solution. The film had its share of ridiculous and hilarious plot points, but ultimately, it was about getting down to brass tacks. Thomas ensured that Jake was not your average self-centered protagonist. His charisma was exactly the right amount, so that people would cheer for him even when he messed up. With each film he appeared in, he added something new. Though some were more entertaining and action-packed than others, they all demonstrated why Jonathan Taylor Thomas was one of the decade's most promising young actors. When he was on set, his characters would come to life. That was the hook that kept viewers hooked. As far as aspiring actors go, Jonathan Taylor Thomas had it all. Among the most famous teenage performers of the 1990s, he provided the voice of Simba in The Lion King and was a star on Home Improvement. He walked away from it all while he was at the pinnacle of his success. A Loki resolved to leave it all in the past, with no scandals or spectacular departures. Ever since he was a little boy, he had lived in Hollywood. But by the time he reached the age of 18, he desired a change. He began his academic career in philosophy and history in 2000 when he enrolled at Harvard University. He wholeheartedly accepted the change from the glamorous world of red carpets and television. He debated concepts and dove headfirst into literature instead of rote memorization of scripts. Seeking a vacation from performing wasn't his only goal. He desired a personal redefinition. He departed from Harvard after 2 years to attend Scotland's University of St. Andrews. He gained new insight into the world outside of his childhood profession as a result of the shift. He returned to the United States in 2010 to finish his degree at Columbia University, where he had begun his studies before. Away from the limelight he remained throughout. Thomas, in contrast to many other former child stars, discreetly established himself outside of Hollywood, while others retained their fame in the spotlight. He was never one to flaunt his academic achievements. A return was never ever considered by him. He did nothing more than advance. However, speculations about his leaving were not absent. His choice to not appear in the 1999 series finale of Home Improvement was a major one. He skipped the last episode, even though the rest of the cast got back together. He thought about applying to college and his future more seriously at that time. Longtime actor Tim Allen, who played his fictional father, said he didn't understand the choice. "Your presence here is much appreciated, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. It is a pleasure to work with you. Mr. James Brown, it is time to play us, esteemed guests." His on-screen mother Patricia Richardson subsequently said that there was no big repercussions from the incident, but many saw it as an indication of friction between the two. True, she maintained contact with Thomas and even encouraged him to leave. Conflict rumors came again years later when plans for a home remodeling reunion were being discussed. Neither Thomas nor Richardson had been contacted regarding a reset, as Richardson disclosed. There was never an open disagreement, but rumors circulated due to the silence. Thomas had just moved on, but being a child celebrity was incredibly taxing on his mental and physical health. He had a tough time with migraines while filming Home Improvement. These weren't your average aches and pains. It was difficult to concentrate during such strong, excruciating bouts. Aside from the continual agony, he also had to learn lines, act on set, and stay up with school. Things became worse due to the excessive hours. It was draining to juggle performing, school, and a personal life. The pressure of keeping everything under control was previously stated by him in an interview. In addition to being a typical youngster, he had to juggle the roles of student and entertainer. No one can handle that level of stress for long. Still, it was more challenging for a person of his age. Rules are in place to safeguard young performers in Hollywood. Their job hours are limited, and they must adhere to certain schooling schedules. However, the stress remains. There are a lot of high expectations when a kid star as famous as Thomas was. It wasn't for show. The success of a popular TV show was riding on his shoulders. He had hit rock bottom by 1998. He made the decision to step away from the limelight, prioritizing his health and studies. Fame is a goal for a lot of aspiring young performers. Thomas found it to be too much. During his prime, he was a major star among the generation's youth. He appeared in every single place. Him, the paparazzi pursued. Both his admirers and the media scrutinized his every action. The focus was constant. He said he was nervous about it in an interview from 1997. He was aware that with celebrity came responsibilities. No matter how much he tried, he was unable to satisfy his fans' expectations. He was affected by the realization. A teen idol is more than simply an actor. Being transformed into something greater than oneself is what it signifies. Supporters impose their personal views on you. Outsiders perceive you as familiar. While it may appear thrilling at first, the pressure eventually becomes too much. Thomas had no intention of remaining in Hollywood indefinitely. He characterized the business world as nervous and strange in an interview from 1996. Outside of the entertainment industry, he enjoyed hanging out with pals. Rather than a byproduct of celebrity, he aspired to be authentic. Rumors regarding his private life also persisted for a long time, adding insult to injury. Both his legion of fans and the press were sexually preoccupied with details of his personal life. He portrayed an identity crisis character in the 2000 Showtime film Common Ground. Although it was only a role, conjecture was fueled by it. His silence simply served to fuel the rumors, as he never addressed them. Someone who treasured their privacy would find this type of scrutiny draining. His entire life was dissected. Many people formed opinions about him without having all the facts. He decided to choose a new course rather than cope with the issue indefinitely. He distanced himself, put his energy into his studies, and established a life apart from the spotlight. In the early 2000s, he made a big comeback to acting with the series Smallville. One of the most popular shows of its era, it portrayed young Clark Kent as he evolved into Superman. As high school student Ian Randall, who harbors a terrible secret, Thomas had an appearance in 2 episodes. Compared to his jobs in the 90s, this was a huge change. He entered a darker realm, no longer the innocent, wisecracking child from Home Improvement. He has the remarkable capacity to replicate himself. It resulted in a compelling plot. Although it was a modest part, it demonstrated that he could handle roles outside of comedy. A little while down the road in 2005, he had a cameo that everyone would remember in Veronica Mars. The show's incisive writing and mystery-driven stories earned it a devoted fan following. A high school student embroiled in a thrilling inquiry was Thomas's character, leaving viewers in suspense as to his genuine goals. His ability to pull off more nuanced parts was on full display, marking a further departure from his early image. However, working with Tim Allen again on Last Man Standing was his most notable comeback to television. Fans of the home renovation show felt a surge of nostalgia as he made many appearances between 2013 and 2016. Reuniting with Allen seemed natural because their connection was still strong. Thomas, though, wasn't only playing the part. A new role had also fallen into his lap. Of cinematography and, well, it's entertaining. In the movies, you get to witness objects explode and leap off of things more often than in the TV program. Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, that's why it's so enjoyable. Do you enjoy being a teen idol? I mean, come on, nobody does. Does it bring you joy? I understand that acting is an important profession for you, but, director? He proved he could do more than just be an actor on the program by directing 3 episodes during his tenure there. His desire to become a director was gradual. He would often observe directors at work, even when he was doing home renovation projects. Thomas was more concerned with the show's overall structure, camera angles, and scene setups than his fellow young performers were with reciting lines. He once compared working on set to getting free film school in an interview. From a young age, he was clear that acting wasn't going to be his exclusive career path. His performance on Last Man Standing demonstrated his dedication. For someone who had been gone from Hollywood for a long time, directing a few of episodes was a huge step, even if it might not seem like much now. He got the opportunity to work with others in a new way, this time as an editor rather than an actor, and shape a tale from behind the camera. Thomas has avoided the limelight despite his modest returns to performing. The month of June 2021 saw him out and about in Hollywood, strolling his dogs. After what seemed like an eternity, he was finally photographed. He was unique among child stars in that he never sought to perpetuate his stardom. For personal reasons, he decided to walk away. No red carpets, no social media. The real world, unfettered by the spotlight. That in no way indicates that he has lost interest in narrative. His passion for both writing and directing has been a constant theme in his speeches and interviews. To this day, he is a cinema and theater buff. He would rather take things easy and appreciate it than feel the need to perform for an audience. He may have left Hollywood behind, but his influence was constant. Because of his part in Home Improvement, he became famous all over the world. A legendary aspect of the film's canon is his voice from The Lion King. He personified the 90s for a whole generation. His most impactful performance, nevertheless, was not in a fictional role. The decision he took was the key. Most famous people never walk away from their stardom. Doing it independently is even more unusual. That, maybe, is what makes him stand out more than before.